Thousands of years ago, in the middle of the desert, a civilization emerged that could predict the movement of planets while sitting on the ground, that performed surgeries as far back as 5,000 years ago, and that had its own calendar. A civilization that achieved centuries ago what modern humans are still trying to understand today. At a time when people in many parts of the world were surviving by hunting, massive temples were being built here, mathematics and astronomy were being understood, and structures were being erected that still stand firm against time thousands of years later, such as the Giza pyramids, built from millions of stones, which continue to amaze scientists even today. This is the very land where pharaohs, meaning kings, were once considered gods, and where death was not seen as an end, but as the beginning of another world. That is why dead bodies were preserved as mummies for thousands of years, and this civilization is considered one of the oldest and most mysterious civilizations in the world. But the question is, how did such a great civilization develop in the middle of the desert? How were pyramids built by lifting stones weighing thousands of tons without modern machines? And why are there still mysteries buried beneath the sands here that the world has not been able to fully understand? This is Egypt, a country where history is not found only in books, but appears alive in every stone, every temple, and every ruin. Here, on one side stand the pyramids and giant statues of the ancient era, while on the other side are modern cities, the sounds of markets, and the fast-paced life of Egypt's capital, Cairo. Today, we will take you on an exciting journey through that very Egypt, a journey that will make you think about this mysterious country. If we want to understand modern Egypt, then we must understand the ancient Egyptian civilization, which was one of the most influential and mysterious civilizations in human history. Born along the banks of the Nile River around 3100 BCE, this civilization existed in the world for nearly 3,000 years. In other words, while humans in many parts of the world were living in small tribes and surviving through hunting, massive temples were being built in Egypt, administrative systems were being run, advanced techniques were being used in agriculture, and monuments were being constructed that still leave scientists amazed today. That is why Egypt is considered not just a country, but one of the cradles of civilization. The pyramids, the Great Sphinx, temples, and the tombs of pharaoh kings built here are still nothing less than a puzzle for historians and archaeologists. Because even after thousands of years, there are many questions that modern science has not been able to fully answer. But the most astonishing thing is that such a great civilization was not built beside a forest or a sea, but around a river. Surrounded by vast deserts on all sides, this river brought life. Every year, the floods of the river left behind fertile soil, making the surrounding land extremely productive for farming. And this fertile land eventually became the strength of Egypt, because only a civilization that does not suffer from a shortage of food can move forward. The people of Egypt had already understood this in that era itself. That is why they grew vast crops, such as wheat, barley, fruits, and vegetables for themselves, ensuring that they never faced a shortage of grain. As a result, they focused their attention on the development of their civilization, such as science, astronomy, and architecture. You may be surprised to know that at a time when humans were living in small tribes, Egypt already had an entire system in place, the control of which rested in the hands of the pharaoh. The pharaoh was not just a king. He was considered the embodiment of a god on earth. Politics, religion, and society all revolved around him. People believed that the pharaoh was the connection between gods and humans, and his authority was not limited to palaces alone, but also extended over the faith of the people. To assist the pharaoh, there was a vast administrative system that included officials, priests, soldiers, merchants, and craftsmen. In simple terms, the structure of Egyptian civilization was like a pyramid. At the very top were the pharaoh and his family, Below them came government officials, followed by priests and soldiers. Beneath them were merchants, craftsmen, and farmers, and at the lowest level were servants and slaves. However, even these servants had rights, and they could gain their freedom at any time. You will be amazed to know that even in such ancient times, the Egyptians were highly advanced in fields such as mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. They had created a 365-day calendar, which was quite similar to the modern calendar used today. They understood the movement of stars and planets and could estimate the weather and time by observing the night sky. Not only that, they were also highly advanced in medical science. Their mummification process clearly shows that they had a deep understanding of the human body. They knew surgical procedures and preserved treatments for many diseases by documenting them in written records. The Egyptians also developed their own writing system known as hieroglyphics. It was a pictorial script in which symbols and images were used instead of words. These inscriptions carved onto temple walls and stones still tell the story of that civilization today. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of ancient Egyptian civilization was not its science, but its beliefs. They believed that after death, a person would receive life again in another world. Perhaps that is why they preserved dead bodies as mummies and built massive tombs and pyramids, so that the journey of their pharaohs could continue even after death. It was this very belief that would later give birth to many of the world's greatest monuments. Now the question is, what does this country with a civilization that is centuries old look like today? Modern Egypt is not limited to pyramids, temples, and ancient monuments. It is considered one of the most important countries in the world, connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe, geographically, culturally, and commercially. That is why, even in ancient times, it was a center of trade and culture, and even today, its strategic importance remains significant across the world. If we talk about the geography of Egypt, the country is located in northeastern Africa. To its west lies Libya, to the south Sudan, and to the northeast Israel. Meanwhile, its Sinai Peninsula connects it to Asia, which is why Egypt is also referred to as a country spread across two continents. The Mediterranean Sea lies to its north and the Red Sea to its east, making it an important center of maritime trade since ancient times. Egypt has a total area of more than 1 million square kilometers. But the surprising fact is that nearly 95% of this vast country is still covered by desert. Endless stretches of golden sand, dry plateaus, and rocky landscapes are common sights here. This is why most of Egypt's population lives in a very small part of the country. Almost the entire population is concentrated around the cities and fertile regions along the Nile River, because this river is still considered the lifeline of the country. With a population of more than 110 million people, Egypt is today among the most populous countries in Africa and the Arab world. Its capital, Cairo, is considered one of the largest cities not only in Egypt but in the entire Middle East and Africa. Cairo is a city where modern flyovers, traffic, shopping malls, and skyscrapers are suddenly accompanied by ancient mosques, markets, and historic monuments. That is why it is also called the City of 1,000 Minarets. Meanwhile, cities such as Alexandria continue to be an important part of Egypt's maritime trade and cultural heritage. If we talk about education and literacy, Egypt has progressed quite rapidly over the past few decades. Today, the literacy rate here is considered to be more than 75%, and major cities are home to modern universities, hospitals, and research institutes. Institutions such as Cairo University and Al-Azhar University are regarded as highly prestigious throughout the Arab world. In particular, Al-Azhar University is counted among the oldest universities in the world, where education has been provided for centuries. Egypt is also continuously developing in the fields of healthcare and science. Major cities have modern hospitals and medical centers, while rapid work is also being carried out in space technology, renewable energy, and infrastructure projects. However, despite this, Egypt still faces challenges such as a growing population, unemployment, and water shortages. Because despite being such a large country, the amount of habitable and arable land here is very limited. If we talk about Egypt's economy, tourism remains one of its greatest strengths. Every year, millions of tourists from around the world come here to experience the pyramids, temples, museums, and Nile cruises. In addition to this, oil, natural gas, agriculture, and international trade also play important roles in Egypt's economy. The country's currency is the Egyptian pound, and it follows the Eastern European time zone. But Egypt's greatest strength is considered to be its location. This is because one of the world's most important maritime trade routes, the Suez Canal, is located in this country. This artificial canal, approximately 193 kilometers long, connects the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. Before it was built, ships traveling from Europe to Asia had to sail around the entire continent of Africa, which added several weeks to the journey. But after the construction of the Suez Canal, maritime trade changed completely. Today, nearly 10 to 12% of global trade passes through this canal. Oil tankers, cargo ships, and massive container vessels travel through this route every day. That is why, if this canal is ever closed even for a few days, its impact can be seen across the entire global economy. Not only that, Egypt's culture also sets it apart from other countries. Arabic is spoken here, and Islam is the major religion of the country. But its culture is not limited to religion alone. Instead, Egypt presents a unique blend of thousands of years of traditions, Arab culture, African influences, and a modern lifestyle. If you walk through the streets of Egypt, the first thing that will capture your attention is the sound of the country itself. As morning arrives, the call to prayer echoes from the mosques. Vehicles move through the streets, people sit in small cafes drinking tea, and the voices of shopkeepers fill the old markets. Together, all of these create a unique atmosphere that defines Egypt. Especially the old markets of Cairo, such as Khan el-Khalili, which still preserve an atmosphere that feels centuries old. Walking through them among the scent of spices, traditional architecture, and Arabic music, it feels as if time is moving forward at a much slower pace. When it comes to festivals, the atmosphere of religious celebrations in Egypt is truly special. During Ramadan, the entire country lights up at night. Markets remain open until late. Colorful lanterns appear along the streets, and families gather together for iftar. During Eid, large crowds can be seen in mosques and marketplaces. But perhaps the most interesting thing about Egypt is that some of its festivals have roots that go all the way back to ancient Egypt. One of them is Sham el-Nessim, which is considered a spring festival. This celebration has been observed for centuries, and even today people spend the day with their families in gardens and along the banks of the Nile River. When it comes to food, Egyptian cuisine is just as ancient and diverse as the country itself. The most famous street food here is considered to be koshari, which is also known as Egypt's national dish. It is a mixture of rice, pasta, lentils, chickpeas, and spicy tomato sauce. At first glance, it may seem simple, but in Egypt, it can be found in every street and every city. In addition, Foul Medams is considered the traditional breakfast of the country, prepared from fava beans cooked over a slow flame. Falafel, grilled meat, shawarma, and freshly baked bread are also important parts of the local cuisine. Tea and coffee culture are also very popular in Egypt. People sit for hours in small cafes, engaging in conversation, smoking shisha, and enjoying traditional Arabic coffee or mint tea. Especially in the evening, the atmosphere along the Nile River appears completely different, where illuminated boats, live music, and the cool breeze give a unique character to modern life in Egypt. Now, let us leave the cities of Egypt behind and begin a journey to its true identity, the ancient monuments and pyramids. South of Cairo lies the place where Egypt first began shaping stone into the form of a pyramid. This is Dashur. At first glance, it may not appear as grand as Giza, but it was Egypt's first necropolis, or royal burial ground. The most famous structure here is the Bent Pyramid, built by Pharaoh Sneferu. From a distance, this pyramid does not appear perfectly straight like other pyramids. Its lower section rises at a steep angle, but midway up, the angle suddenly changes, making the pyramid appear slightly bent. That is why it is called the Bent Pyramid. Even today, historians and scientists hold different opinions about this change. Some believe that while the pyramid was being built, the architects realized that its original angle was too steep and that the structure could collapse. Therefore, the design was altered midway through construction. Others consider it a deliberate experiment. But whatever the reason may have been, this pyramid showed the world something rare, the beginning of a great civilization. Very close to the bent pyramid stands the Red Pyramid, which is considered Pharaoh Sneferu's second and successful attempt. It is known as the world's first true smooth-sided pyramid, meaning a pyramid whose four sides rise and meet at the correct angle. It was named the Red Pyramid because of the reddish limestone used in its construction. When the desert sunlight falls upon its surface, its color appears even deeper. And when you pass through the narrow passages leading inside, it feels as though you are entering the very blueprint that would eventually give birth to the Great Pyramids of Giza. At the southern edge of Egypt, where the golden desert gradually meets the calm waters of Lake Nasser, stands a structure carved directly into the rock that still makes people bow before the brilliance of ancient Egypt. This is Abu Simbel, a temple built not only from stone but from power, faith, and the desire for immortality. Around 3,000 years ago, Pharaoh Ramses II ordered the construction of these temples. From a distance, it appears as if an entire mountain has been transformed into a human form. In front of the main temple of Abu Simbel sit four colossal statues of Ramses II, each standing approximately 20 meters tall. However, time and earthquakes have also damaged this monument. The head of one statue broke off and fell to the ground. Yet despite this, the grandeur of the temple still appears unchanged. Beneath these massive statues, smaller figures depict Ramses' wife Nefertari and their children, as if the entire royal family had been immortalized in stone forever. As soon as you pass through its narrow entrance, vast halls appear before you, with walls covered in carvings that still tell the story of ancient Egypt. In some places there are scenes of war, in others religious ceremonies, and elsewhere Ramses II is shown standing alongside the gods. Looking at these walls, it feels as though even stone can remember history. What makes it even more fascinating is that every year, on the mornings of February 22nd and October 22nd, the rays of the rising sun enter directly through the temple's main entrance and travel through a long dark corridor before reaching the inner sanctuary. For a few minutes, this light falls upon the statues of Ramses II and the gods placed inside. But one statue always remains in darkness, the statue of Ptah, the god of craftsmen. This is what makes the temple's architecture even more mysterious. As we continue our journey, we arrive at the edge of Cairo, where three massive shapes slowly begin to appear on the distant horizon. And as you get closer to them, you realize for the first time just how enormous the pyramids seen in photographs and videos truly are. The most famous among them is the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built by Pharaoh Khufu around 4,500 years ago. This pyramid once stood approximately 146 meters tall and remained the tallest man-made structure in the world for thousands of years. Around 2.3 million stone blocks were used in its construction, many of which weighed several tons each. And the most astonishing thing is that all of this was built at a time when there were no modern machines, no cranes, and no technology like the one we have today. That is why countless theories about the pyramids still exist. Some believe that millions of workers spent years building them. Some point to the technological advancements of that era, while others still question how such extraordinary structures could have been built at that time. When you look at these pyramids, you will notice that all four of their corners are aligned precisely with the north, south, east, and west directions. Even today, engineers and historians are amazed by such accuracy. The ancient Egyptians believed that a pharaoh continued to live in another world after death. That is why pyramids were considered not just tombs, but eternal gateways. Gold, jewels, weapons, food, and many other essential items were buried alongside the pharaoh so that his journey could continue in the next world. The narrow passageways, hidden chambers, and mysterious corridors inside the Great Pyramid continue to fascinate people even today. Some chambers have still not been fully understood. Even modern scans have revealed hidden passages and spaces, making the mystery of the pyramids even deeper. Standing in front of these pyramids is the Great Sphinx of Giza, a giant, mysterious statue with the body of a lion and the face of a human. It is believed to represent Pharaoh Khafra, but many mysteries still surround it today. Despite facing thousands of years of desert winds and storms, the Sphinx still appears to watch over the Giza desert with the same silence. Today, around the pyramids, you can see tourists riding camels, people taking photographs, and travelers from all over the world. But as the sun slowly begins to set behind the desert and golden light falls across these massive structures, for a moment it feels as if time itself has stopped and ancient Egypt has come alive once again. Now, as we continue our journey, let us head toward the Nile River. And when you stand on the banks of the Nile, you begin to understand why the ancient Egyptians considered this river not just a source of water, but a god. Flowing through the middle of the desert, this river truly feels like a miracle. On one side, you see golden sand and dry land, while on the other side, there are green fields, palm trees, and small villages. It is this contrast that makes Egypt so unique. And perhaps the most beautiful way to experience the Nile is through its slow journey, a journey in which time itself seems to flow more slowly. Even today, traditional felucca boats can be seen in Egypt, their white sails drifting across the river with the wind. At sunset, when the shadows of these boats fall upon the water, the entire scene begins to look like a painting. Continuing along the banks of the Nile River, you arrive in Luxor, which was once considered the capital of ancient Egypt. Historians often say that Luxor is the world's largest open-air museum, because in every part of this city, traces of ancient Egypt can still be seen. Located here is Karnak Temple, which is considered one of the largest temple complexes in the world. This temple was not built by a single pharaoh, but by several rulers over the course of centuries. The massive pillars inside are so enormous that a person feels incredibly small standing before them. The carvings on the walls still tell stories of wars, religious ceremonies, and the pharaohs. Also located in Luxor is the Valley of the Kings, the mysterious valley where many of Egypt's pharaohs were buried. From the outside, it appears to be nothing more than a region of dry hills, but hidden within these hills are some of the greatest stories of ancient Egypt. This is the very place where the famous tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered, astonishing the entire world. The paintings and symbols inside these tombs still appear so clear, even after thousands of years, that it feels as if they were created only yesterday. The Egyptians believed that life continued after death, and perhaps that is why they made these tombs so magnificent. Continuing further along the Nile, you arrive in Aswan, where the pace of Egypt feels a little slower. Here, the Nile appears calmer, and the small villages along its banks, colorful houses, and traditional culture reveal a completely different side of Egypt. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Nile is that it does not feel like just a river. It feels as though all of Egypt is breathing around it. People fishing in the morning, camels walking along the banks, golden light reflecting on the water in the evening, and the call to prayer echoing from distant mosques. All of this together makes Egypt feel not just like a historical destination, but like a living civilization. Well, how did you find Egypt's ancient history, pyramids, and mystery-filled temples? Would you ever like to travel to Egypt? And from which country are you watching this video? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey, please support us by liking and sharing the video so that we can continue creating more exciting videos like this. And to keep watching documentaries like these, be sure to subscribe to our channel and press the notification bell. Thank you.